Of course, his geese is human god. Then he would just need to parse over it and then just say shit that he already knows. Oh, no wonder Tall Hand didn't have a problem traveling well in these if he is... Yeah. Hey everybody, welcome back to another Stoneface Reactions. Theta here, and we're back with another episode of Mushoku Tensei. I do have a board, but the board has not been significantly changed enough that I feel like y'all need to see it. The last things that I did were way back when I did the 7-god ranking thing. So you've seen that, and the only thing I've added since then is literally I just put a line down between Sylphette and Rudy to show their possible child. Again, I'm not putting it past this show to put infant mortality in the ranking of depressing shit. So I don't really want to put it out there and then put it to the space and then have it happen. So, kind of waiting for that one. Otherwise, though, no comments either, because once again, since I sped through in my catch-up phase, I'm so far ahead on YouTube releases that you guys are probably seeing this hopefully by the time I'm starting to watch Season 3. Either that or you're watching this well after the fact. Unless you're on Patreon, in which case, hey, let me know. Otherwise, I do have notes. As someone that not only never planned to have kids, but as someone that's been dosed with so much radiation due to medical treatments that I likely can't have kids, this, take this all with a grain of salt. But Sylphette is 2 months pregnant. Before the introduction of the teleporter system, Rudy was considering the round trip to be 16 months, with a total away time of 2 years if they hit difficulty in the rescue, which you'd have to assume that they would, since the original rescue party was calling for help in the first place. Assuming Geese isn't fucking around, which he better not be, that would mean, assuming everything goes right, that would mean his child would be just under 2 years old by the time he got back. The average age for a person's earliest memories is over 3 years old. So the possible long-term disassociation between Rudy and his child feels like it would be very minimized. I know that the real threat is everything else, leaving Sylphie alone, childbirth, enemies, etc. But this was just one of the bigger things weighing on my mind. And, God forbid, their child be an isekai kid like its dad, where, regardless of age, the consciousness inside knows and remembers everything. So, yeah, just that element of the child not recognizing its father is not a threat here, assuming that childbirth goes fine, even if Rudy took 2 years. If Rudy has the mana capacity of a god, how come he can't keep Lisa's chastity belt charged constantly? Seems like it would be of no challenge for him. Unless the point of the journey is to break her curse in other ways. I mean, not the point of the journey, but, point of writing them both together. Like Rudyard's curse wasn't broken by direct magical intervention, but by changing hearts and minds. Is the chastity belt a crutch, and the real way to break her curse is going to be understanding her devotion to Cliff? As much as I'd like to think that might be a possibility, I doubt it will be the case, given Law's father existed, and I doubt Elise didn't feel nothing for the man. So, obviously, it's not just love will save the day, because if they pull that, then they've got a lot of explaining to do when it comes to Law's dad. Since Nanahoshi traveled with Orsted, it feels like a no-duh moment after she pulls out the Book of Teleportation Circles. That Orsted would have been the one using them, thus finding his clothes in one of the locations was more of a secondary hint for those people, like myself, that hadn't considered the ramifications of her having that information. At the same time, it's kind of interesting that the circles needed to be guarded by such magics. I think that if anyone knew Orsted was guarding or using such places, that no one would try to do anything with it. Granted, that my listing of the 7 great powers didn't include Lapis, and this Orsted kind of falls off the bottom of that list, but having seen the power the man holds, I can't help but think that he's a country-level threat. Even Bodigatti seemed impressed when Rudy said he'd stood up against Orsted and survived. And we saw Orsted intimidating flights of dragons. Just my interpretation of the man, anyways. Alright, just responding to the chat, because once again, I watch these live on Fridays at 11 a.m. EST. Constant reminder I do every time that I respond to a comment from Alex. You know, that would be sad, funny, and interesting if his son died and his soul went to Rudy's world, our real world, and somehow Rudy found out and together with Nanahoshi tried to see him or bring him back. The problem with that, if we want to deep dive that as a thought experiment, is that if he died in childbirth and then, got reincarnated or brought to another world and inhabited another baby's body, he would be a dead baby in a baby's body, in which case the growth process would be exactly the same. There would be no telling, right? For all you know, every baby born in this world now is an isekai dead baby from another world, because there would be no difference, right? Now, if you think about this in the other way, what if he did grow older, say up to 30 or 40, died, goes to the other world, etc., and then we have a reverse isekai scenario on our hands, but which could be cool. And therein, if you remember last time, I was talking about the idea of a Nanahoshi centric show where Nanahoshi does get back into the real world, but she has her rings that have like mana self-contained, and she becomes like the only character in the real world able to do magic stuff because she doesn't have magic either, but she's got these rings and shit empowered by the fantasy world. And that would be a cool show for me to watch. Now, I think what you've described would be our first character arc for Nanahoshi in the real world, which is, well, secondary. Secondary character arc, because the first character arc has to be her reacclimating to life in the real world, coming from that fantasy world. Second character arc, maybe 30 years down the line, Rudy's son dies, and he gets reincarnated, or not reincarnated, reincarnated, that was the right word. He gets reincarnated into this world, and he knew Nanahoshi, or he learned about Nanahoshi at some point, and he encounters her here, and that's can you send a message back to there, or, I'm taking it back. That sounded like a good idea on paper, but the fact is there's no magic in this world, and I don't think her rings, unless she makes a ring to do that before she leaves, would be able to do that. Yeah, maybe. It's anime. We can hand wave. Maybe she makes a ring, or she designs a ring. I got Zanoba designs a ring that Rudy then empowers to allow her to send messages back to the friends that she made, and then she can send, and they can send messages back to her, so that she can still have like essentially a ring phone or something to contact the main show again, so that she could then tell Rudy, your son made it over here to the other side. I'm going to keep an eye on him. Spinoff. It's a fucking spinoff show that we just pitched. Well, technically you gave me the idea for, and then I pitched it out loud. I'm just saying, if Nanahoshi does make it back to the real world, we've got real good spin-off potential, I feel like. I completely understand Sylphet's apprehension towards Rudy teleporting. The first thing that comes to my mind, beyond all the chaos caused by the teleportation incident, is how Sylphet reacted to Nanahoshi when she said that she thought she had caused the incident by accident. Sylphie went mad dog on her because she's got that PTSD about everything that happened. At the same time, I don't think Rudy should be promising that he will be coming back. Maybe I've just been watching too much of The Rookie, but the thing that keeps coming up in that show is not promising someone's safety if they choose to do a thing, as that is something that you cannot guarantee. Keeping in mind that Human God has told us that there will be regrets no matter what happens, a broken promise to return in any specified amount of time could easily be a regret. Next thought is a pretty short one. Rudeus Jr. would be a horrible girl's name. Just saying. That's born from the fact that when Rudy doesn't realize that naming the kid before he leaves would be a death flag, and what was it, Aisha? I think it's either Aisha or Norn. I think it was Aisha. Comes up with the idea of making a promise that if he doesn't come back or something like that, they'll call it Rudeus Jr. And they give no thought to the idea of that works fine as a boy's name, but you're making the promise to name a girl Rudeus Jr. So, it's a horrible girl's name, in my opinion. I'm just saying. Bodigatti is going to be a problem. I said it last time. I think I said it 2 episodes ago. I'm saying it again now. I said it ever since he showed up to have a problem with Rujard and his disapproval at Rudy protecting him. The fact they called out Bodigatti as missing last episode only makes me more confident that bad things are afoot. And not for nothing, once again, succubi are demons. Bodigatti is king of the demons. Don't know if these two things are tied together, but, it's in the air. See, I didn't preface this one, so let me preface this now. I'm referring to the teleportation circles. Not knowing the nature of the time lag, I feel like that could be a major issue. They showed it to use for a reason, and I have to think. So it's all about figuring out what that reason is and the implication of it. If I had to guess, the obvious reason would be to explain why something happens later when we walk onto a teleportation circle, and without explanation in the moment, we have a time lag problem. That we can then think back to this, and Rudy can have a I'm so stupid moment and figure it out for us in his head then. The implications, I'm not sure of. Could be that the seal gets weaker every time it's used with less time to recharge, so that when Elise and Rudy meet the whole party and then they have to use it, the time lag will become equivalent to the previous travel time, and that might become the regret that we have for later. I don't know exactly what it is. I just see it coming, and I'm just trying to identify it now so that later when it happens, well, one, I can say I told you so, but two, I can also be in the idea of trying to figure it out as well with everything I've already thought. And my last thought from last episode is the problem with Lise not forgiving Paul is that knowing Paul means not knowing what he's guilty of. As in, there's too much that I can imagine that Paul could be guilty of. Especially having missed that he committed SA on my first watch through, which means that I now think he's capable of so much worse. I legit have no clue, but I'm certainly thinking the worst of him now. As much as I love Paul as a character, he is how do I put this? He's like a family man version of Kimberly from Full Metal Alchemist, which is to say, Kimberly does some horrible shit, and I wouldn't put it past him to have done a lot of horrible shit we don't know about. But he's a very interesting character nonetheless. So, kind of give him the benefit of the doubt to be entertaining and nice, even though his backstory, apropos of knowing him, would make him not so nice, right? If you read Paul's rap sheet without knowing him, you'd think this is a fucking piece of shit. And then you meet him and he's like a family man who's sacrificing everything to rescue his wife, right? And it's like, oh, sometimes people have different reads about them, is all I'm saying. All right. Well, all of that said, I think there's nothing left to do but to get into this and see what giant skeletal city sitting on top of a labyrinth has in store for us. Again, we're very close to the end, so I feel like the story is going to accelerate up until what I have to assume is going to be a cliffhanger ending to the season. Because once again, unless the show is done, and the manga, unless the manga's done, and I doubt that it is, they're going to have to sell you on, hey, watch the next season, which means there's going to be something here based on how last season ended to get us there, right? So I'm on a rush to wait. So let's go ahead and hop on into it.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button.
Comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
Assuming he's not in the labyrinth. Oh yeah, don't forget to look for posted messages, as we should have learned in Season 1, Core 2.
さて、とりあえずパウロかギースのことを聞いてみますわよ。聞けばわかるでしょうか。ギースはこういうところに情報網を張っていますから、名前さえ言っておけば、あとは向こうで。と、その必要もなさそうですわね。
Or that's Geese right there. Who I remember either Griff or Justin thinking was human god himself.
ギース？
おお、エリナリーズじゃねえか。
遅れましたわね。
なことはね、むしろ早すぎるぐらいだ。っていうか、手紙出したのはまだ半年前だぜ。あ、もしかして手紙見てねえか。
そのことは後で話しますわ。ゼニスの方はどうなっています？
芳しくね、正直な。まあ、こっちも詳しくは後で話そう。
Oh god, fuck this or tell you later shit.
おお、なんだ先輩だよな。ずいぶんでかくなったな。
ギースさんはお変わりのないようで。
やめろよこそばゆい。新入りでいいっての。あ
ら、ずいぶんと仲がよろしいのね。
なあよ、一緒に牢屋に入ってた仲だからな。
Where there were wooden bars.
あ、懐かしいな。
と、思い出話をしてる場合じゃねえな。パウロのところに案内するぜ。
There's one element of storytelling that I hate the most, which is I'll tell you later. I think very specifically because I'm an impatient ass, but also, if I traveled, I don't know, it's been a number of weeks, right? And this was very important to me. The first thing I want to know is how everything's happening. Like, fuck it, we're finding a table right now, and we're talking about this. And if you imply to me that you can wait to hear how I got here that quack, if you can wait to hear how I got here this quick, then you're telling me your side of the story first. Because I'm not fucking waiting. Like, Paul can tell me everything that Paul needs to tell me as soon as I get to Paul. You're telling me everything you know now. You sent the letter, for one thing. And then on the way to Paul, I can tell you how I got here that quick, because that's a fucking short story. Because, I mean, I know I said the show should be rushing towards that waiting point at its end, but I don't actually want it to rush, but I still want to fucking know. I want to know everything.
いいが、パウロも相当参ってるからな。 エリナリーゼよ、おめえも言いたいことはあるだろうが、今回はちっとばかし抑えてくれ。
約束できかねますわね。
先輩もだ。前みたいな喧嘩はやめてくれよ。
はい。
I mean, they already moved past that. Like, emotionally, they moved past that whole thing.
旦那様、ルーデウス様がおいでなさいました。
Don't be super... Okay. I was worried he was still unshaven and everything.
夢じゃねえのか。
本物ですよ、父さん。お久しぶりです。
来てくれたのか。早いな。
少々特殊な移動方法で来ました。帰りに話すことになると思います。
ま、お前ならそういうこともあり得るのか。
I hope he's just exhausted and tired and not drunk.
父さんはな、ダメなやつだ。母さんは助けられないし、自分で決めたことも守れねえ。親としてお前にも何一つしてやれねえ。ダメなやつだ。
来てよかった。パウロがこんな状態なら、それだけで俺が来た意味もある。
安心してください。
The element of me that wants him to say something about how he's going to have a kid, but I don't know how you could possibly even broach that subject with these two right now.
大きくなりましたよ。もうすぐ子供も
Never
生まれるん
mind.
です。
Apparently, you just do it.
あとは俺に任せてゆっくり休んでください。
子供？お前、本当に立派になったんだな。父さん、こんなダメな父親でごめんな。
子供の頃、あんなに大きかったパウロが、今は小さく感じた。
Because Paul's only human, right? It feels like Paul is going through kind of like everybody in Rudy's life has elements of what Rudy went through.
エリナリーゼさんは助けに来てくれたんです。父さんと顔を合わせたくないのを承知の上で。
エリナリーゼ。
何ですの？
あの時は悪かった。
私にも非があったと思ってますわ。
Whatever it was. Sorry. Intrusive thought. What if Paul was Law's dad?
エリナリーゼ。
どういたしまして。
Meaning that Sylphette is actually related to Rudy? No, that couldn't be possible. He's too
お前
young.
よく我慢できたな。
I
もし
mean,
かして
yeah,
ルデ
the
ィとやっ
timeline
ち
doesn't
まっ
work.
たんじゃ
Never
ねえだ
mind.
ろうな。
Stupid thoughts.
まさかクリフの魔道具で何とかしましたわ。
どれだクリフってのは。
私の旦那ですわ。
はあ？お前に旦那ってそんな物好きがいるのかよ。どういう冗談だよそりゃ。
父さん言い過ぎです。クリフは俺の尊敬できる友人ですよ。
マジか。悪かったな。今度紹介してくれよ。
ええ、あなたよりよっぽどいい男ですわよ。
何にせよ。
The other thought I was having is maybe that Elise and Paul were having a relationship, and then he left her
感謝は
for
これからです
Zenith,
わ。
and that's what they disagree about.
状況
Or
を説明する。ギースの情報によると、ゼニスはここより北に1日行ったところにある迷宮に囚われているらしい。
6年ずっとですか？
わからん。
命に別状？
わからん。数年前、その迷宮で
again, I think it's the opening of the show which kind of ruins that.
がいたって話を聞いたんだ。さらに最近になってゼニスを迷宮の中で見たって話もある。その迷宮ってのが古くて厄介でな。この1年迷宮探索のプロが4人も集まって半分も攻略できてね。情けない話だ。
Well, Rudy did bring a book.
客人がおるのか。もしやお前さんがパウロの息子か？
はい、はじめまして、ルーデウスです。
タルハンドだ。話に聞いていた通り。
Oh yeah, that's right. The first time they've actually really met.
うん。
Okay, didn't know that about him, but well, fine, whatever.
いいか。
Married guy.
全員
ちょっと待ってください。ロキシー師匠はどうしたんですか？
Oh, lost her in the labyrinth? Is that why she's sitting that way in the opening?
ロキシは1ヶ月前、迷宮で罠にかかって。
死んだんですか？
聞きたくない。だって彼女は一人で迷宮を踏破できる実力者で、水曜級魔術師で、俺の恩人で。聞きたくない。
いや、転移魔法陣を踏んで行方不明になっただけだ。まだ死んだと決まったわけじゃねえ。おいパウロ、そりゃ無理だ。
Again, we wouldn't think she was because of the opening of the show. Is kind of a spoiler to that too. I'm sort of upset that Rudy is reacting to this way, considering that Zenith is also missing in here, and he's not reacting with the same energy as Zenith missing.
すみません。話の腰を折ってしまいましたね。その迷宮というのはどういうところなんですか？
難易度 S 級。ここらでは最悪の迷宮の一つ。転移の迷宮だ。
ちょっと待っててください。ここに転移の迷宮の奥深くまで侵入した冒険者の手記があります。何かの役に立ちませんか？
なんでこんなものを？
大学から借りてきました。
ギース、確認してくれ。うん。じゃあ読ませてもらうぜ。
Of course, his geese is human god. Then he would just need to parse over it and then just say shit that he already knows. Oh, no wonder Tall Hand didn't have a problem traveling well in these if he is... Yeah.
本当か？ああ、知りたかったことがほとんど書いてら。よし、全員が読み終わったらフォーメーションから決めていくか。おう。
ルーデウス様と寝床を共にするのは初めてでしたね。
そうですね。
旦那様のいびきがうるさかったら遠慮なく申し付けください。
はい。
時にルーデウス様、
何でしょうか？
愛車はきちんとやっていますでしょうか？
Probably not the duty that you want.
ルーデウス様
We know what you told you last time.
ことはございませんか？
何も。家事も全部してくれてますし、助かっています。
そうですか。わがままを言ってなければいいんですが。
もう少しぐらいわがままを言ってくれた方が俺としては楽だったかもしれませんね。何ですか父さん、さっきからニヤニヤと。
いや、なんかいいなって思ってな。
Family's all together again, sort of.
ルディがよ、きちんと大人になってリーリャと話してるって光景がさ。そういやルディ、子供が生まれるとか言ってたな。
実は魔法大学に在学中に結婚したんです。
結婚？誰と？エリスとか？
Yeah, about that.
魔法大学で再会できまして。
シルフィ？ブエナ村のか？生きていたのか？
ええ、彼女は彼女で大変そうでしたけどね。
そうか。結婚、子供、孫か。すまなかったな。俺が不甲斐ないせいで父親になろうってやつをこんなところまで呼び出して。
いえ、申し訳なく思っています。母さんが見つかってもいないのに自分だけ。
帰ったらみんなで盛大に。
We've already moved on past that since the last time I kicked your ass in front of Norn.
何せ父さん、初孫ですよ。パウロおじいちゃんですよ。
よせよ、まだそんな年じゃねえんだから。子供ができたってことはルディ、お前も男になったってことだよな。
旦那様、あまり下品なことをお聞きになるのはどうかと
It's
思
right
い
up
ます
Paul's alley to
い
ask
い
these
じゃねえ
things.
かよ。俺はな、 ルディとこういう話を一度ぐらいはしてみたいと思ってたんだよ。父さん、そっちのことに関してはちょっとばかし自信があるんだ。
Plus, he never got to give you the talk, right?
そうですね。じゃあいくつか聞きたいことがあるんですが。
まったくルーデウス様まで。
リーリャもこうは言っちゃいるが、あっちの方となると激しくってな。
旦那様。
そういや、いつかの時だってリーリャの方から誘ってきたんだったな。
その時の
I
話。
guess to be fair, they got married
様までやめて
in
くだ
order
さ
to
い。
make this whole thing work anyway, so. And now without Zenith, who's he gonna go to with his other wife?
いいな。
了解。
皆様ご分を。
よし、行こう。
It's also good to see the other sister wearing clothes again. But I already covered that in the opening.
お前の息子は便利なものを持ってきよるの。
まあな、自慢の息子だからな。
魔法陣を踏むとどこかに飛ばされてしまうので避けて歩く。しかしたまに光らない魔法陣もあるので注意が必要でしたね。
そうだ、ギースの足跡をしっかりと踏んでいけよ。魔物だ。
Yeah, more like a giant spider, but yeah, still in the territory of monster.
まあ、このぐらいなら楽勝だな。ほんと余裕だな。
うざい。俺にかっこいいところを見せたいとか思っているのだろう。戦うパパがかっこいいのは分かってるから油断はしないでほしいものだ。
It's hard to show off in front of Rudy.
私が前でしょ。
第一階層ならそう変わりゃしねえだろうが。
私はともかくルーデウスは迷宮自体が初なんですから、大人として見本を見せなさいな。
だからその緊張をほぐしてやろうと会話の機会を伺ってだな。
嘘をおっしゃい。今のあなたからはゼニスがパーティーに入った頃の浮ついた空気を感じますわよ。
いや、まあそれを言われると弱いけどよ。なんだお前、随分と口やかましくなったんだな。
当たり前ですわ。
I mean, for me, it's discipline. If you can't follow discipline on the first stratum, you're not going to follow discipline on the sixth, right?
実は知らないうちに親族になっているんだ、パウロよ。
あそこが第二階層への魔法陣だ。
敵が邪魔ですね。
Which one?
行くぞ。
よいか、火は使うな。
なぜですか。
火を使うと部屋の中に毒が充満しよる。特に階層が深くなると注意が必要じゃ。
I mean, to be fair, though, his specialty is rock and water,
中
so.
毒のことだろう。
それから天井を攻撃するのもご法度じゃ。理由はわかるな。
洞窟が崩壊するかもしれないからですね。
そうじゃ。じゃからあまり水も使わない方がいい。
So, rock
なる
then.
べく氷を使え。
了解。
Oh, okay. It's something we've never seen him use before.
さすがロキシーの弟子じゃな。使う魔術まで同じとはの。
Conversely, he could have done the whole rotation thing he does with rocks
こっ
on
ちに問
ice.
題なさそうだ。よし、みんな魔法陣に乗るんだ。
Especially this many monsters still here if you've been at this for
ここ
years.
で一旦休憩だ。
Because otherwise it must mean that they repopulate extremely fast.
どうしたルディ？お前も早く済ませろ。
はい。
それにしてもパウロが静かだ。第一階層の時はこうした休憩ごとにどうだとかなんとか聞いてきたのだが、さすがに第二階層ともなると真剣さが違うな。ダディがクールだ。
Four to go, too.
もうすぐ第三階層だ。本の通りなら転移罠は同じ階層にしか飛ばされないらしい。運が良ければロキシーはまだその辺りにいるかもな。
はい。もっと何日もかけて潜るかと思っていました。
基本はそうだが、今回はお前が持ってきた本があるからな。
手探りで進むのと地図を使って進むのでは違って当然か。ここからが本番だ。まずはロキシーを見つけるのだ。
先輩よ、勘でいいんだが、ロキシーはどの辺にいると思う？
Don't go by intuition.
どうした？
なんだ、ルディ。
I mean, we know we find her. She was in the opening.
突然どうしたんですの？
荘厳なる大地の鎧をまとわんハースフォートレス。
So she's been fighting constantly for...
落ちる雫を散らしめし世界は水で覆われん。ウォータースプラッシュ。
How'd you assholes not hear this?
天より舞い降りし青き女神よ、その尺状を奮いて世界を凍りつかせん。アイシクルフィールド。島の王、大いなる雪原の葉を
Literally, if Rudy can see this through a hole in the wall, you should be able to hear this.
死を司りし冷たき王が凍てつかせん。ブリザードストーム。
Yeah, it would have made a dome over the teleportation thing, I think.
ダメですか。焦げたる剣を持ちて敵を切り裂かん。フレームスライス。
What if she got a moment to eat or sleep or anything?
荘厳なる大地の鎧をまとわんハースフォートレス。
Not running out of mana. And the artist wanted to give us that shot.
死にたくない。助けて。
Oh, come on. You didn't have to fucking show. Come on.
助けて。
That was unnecessary. I do not approve or appreciate that. Is it realistic? Sure. But of the many artistic choices you've made during the show, I don't... I grew up. You didn't. Although I'm pretty damn sure he's probably got her panties in his pocket. So he hadn't grown up past that. You know, even though he got married, I'm pretty sure he still has that box in the house, doesn't he? Look, I know that Roxy is a, well, more adult than Rudy, but at the same time, also more immature is not the word I want to use. More inexperienced, I guess. Even though she's traveled the world so many times, she is not naive or inexperienced. I don't know, there's an element about her that seems like she is flummoxed by shit like this. Like when Elise having orgies in her room. But it just seems beyond me that even on the verge of death, she would piss herself in fear. Right? I just don't appreciate that. That does something to her character that I think was a wholly unnecessary move. I mean, thankfully, like, Rudy doesn't say, oh, it looks like you wet yourself, like, for no reason. Alright, looks like we're still going to be investigating how to get to where Zenith is next episode, assuming that things are still only based on what the episode titles are, which is to say that I guess the adventurer who wrote the book is non-knowledgeable about where the end of the labyrinth is. So obviously they're going to have to try magic circles and see where they go, because otherwise, how would you know, right? So I guess next episode at least is going to be them exploring. How many episodes do we have left? Let me just double check real quick. We got 1, 2, 3, 4 after this. So what? 1 of exploring, 1 of finding her and then having a difficulty, 1 of winning, and 1 of coming home again? Would be my guess. So I'm going to assume that we're going to finish this season having saved Zenith at the very least. So the last episode is going to have coming home, but whatever difficulty or regret therein is going to be had. Once more, though, responding to the comment section, which is an experience in one sense, we've seen her act that nervous when she saw Rougeard too. Here's my thing: is I don't remember. Oh yeah, no, she saw Rougeard when they were Eris and Rougeard were dueling. Oh, and what's that thing that she famously did in that scene? Oh, that's right, she pissed herself, right? No, she didn't. She didn't piss herself. She wasn't that nervous when she saw Rougeard. And then again, this isn't nervousness. This is fear of dying, which I'm going to say is, yes, a different thing. And I know the show, it pulls like realistic things people do sometimes, but it does not feel right for Roxy to have pissed herself because she thinks she's about to die. And I said no to the inexperienced thing. It's a word I can't figure out. Whatever I said before, not inexperienced, naivety, maybe. The fact that she is flummoxed by these things that she walks into, that you'd think due to age and experience she would have wandered into before, but apparently she hasn't. And again, the fact that she has no settled home means that she has been wandering for quite a while, picking up jobs here and there. And yeah, once again, when she was having her little panic attack with her parents, she also didn't piss herself. Like I said, this is just a sudden thing. Like, I don't know why you're defending her pissing herself. This is not the only people who piss themselves in the show that I can get with is the 2 Beast Girls. And that's because they've been like tied up in a room for like a week and hadn't been allowed to use the bathroom. And I'm not even on board with that because that was Rudy's worst storyline to date, where he did a thing to 2 girls that he had done to him that ruined his fucking life. And then he does it to these 2 and never recognizes, oh shit, what have I become? He just moves on and gets better and better in his life after it. Not because of it. I was about to say because of it. In spite of it. Roxy being scared in that moment makes perfect sense. Roxy pissing herself with fear, it's not the Roxy that I know. That's just not the Roxy I know. The Roxy I know is the Roxy that we saw fighting to the very end. And then in that moment, the not the author, the animator gave us an upskirt shot of someone who's about to die, and that makes no fucking sense, right? I recognize that this show is filled with sexual motifs and whatnot. So yeah, those are typically, just thrown about. But this is literally, oh, Roxy's about to pass out due to mana exhaustion. She's falling on her ass. Let's show you upskirt. Why? And then she pisses herself. It feels like the fetish guy animated this episode. Or not this episode. The fetish guy animated this part of the episode. Because I don't know what the excuse here is for. And just to be clear, I'm not like super angry or anything. It's just I don't understand why. Like, we're getting into the more impactful stuff. We just had Paul sit down with Rudy about being a dad. And yeah, Paul went into his, like, pervy shit too. But that's the relationship Paul and Rudy has had when Rudy was a kid. So this, like, return to dad-son relationship from before. We don't have clarity on Elise and Paul's former problem, but we're having like closure to it. And the closure is good, even though it's like Paul's putting his foot in his mouth. It just doesn't feel like it fits. It does not fit into the episode like everything else from this episode. And it doesn't ruin Roxy's character, but it besmirches her character in a way that I don't feel is necessary. And yeah, also a tall hand staring at Rudy's butt. It's like, was it necessary to the scene? No, but at the very least, it explains to me how Tall Hand was able to travel with Elise all this time without having like any problems whatsoever. A question I didn't even know that I had, but was answered by a pervy glance. At least they did something with it instead of, whatever this was. I'm ranting and I'm rambling, and I know that the comment section is fucking going to destroy me about this, but it's where I stand right now. It was an unnecessary shot, and I don't feel like it was completely to character for Roxy. And that's just what that is. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think there's anything else I really have to comment about because I said most of my piece in the reaction itself. If there's anything else I have further thoughts on, I will, of course, bring it up in my next note section for next episode. So, yeah, once again, I have been Theta. This has been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you thought about this video and what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?